Hi everyone, Steve Buzza here, coming from my new golf lab, and today I'm speaking about these proposed rule changes in terms of the ball and how far the ball goes. I've been asked this question a lot with my in-person lessons, so I thought I'd spend a couple minutes kind of highlighting what they're intending and if I think it's a good thing or a bad thing. So I think we have to start this argument with how they currently test what is a conforming golf ball and what isn't. So they get a robot, they get it swinging at about 120 miles an hour, and then that ball, I believe, isn't allowed to go over 317 yards plus or minus 3 yards. That's kind of their test. I've obviously simplified that a little bit. What they're proposing is to change the test and have the club head speed 127 miles per hour. And I think that shows you where their thinking is. Because it's strange to have a test that doesn't really encompass your population, because there's not many people playing that swing at 127, even on tour. So I think they're preparing for the next generation of golfer. And I think they look at like what Bryson has done and gone, he put an emphasis to hit it further and he now got really fast. What's going to happen when a really fast, springy teenager decides to do that? And they could bring in long drive-esque numbers in a very usable form. So I feel like that is where their thinking is. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that. And if that is the thinking, that argument of land availability certainly becomes a factor. You take javelin. Javelin is the example I use. Javelin, they had to change how far the javelins could be thrown, because basically they were running out of area in the track and field landscape. You know, you can't have people throwing a pointy spear through the grass and landing on the track the other side. So they didn't have the space, so they had to change the equipment. So I think that is a great argument if that is what you're going for. I always worry with the USGA and R A that they can sometimes worry and make the change because of what it looks like, not based maybe as objectively as it could be. And a few examples of that would be the putters, belly putters, long putters. Few guys won majors and then they changed that rule. Bryson talked about making or using a longer driver at 48. He never even did it, but then they changed the rule. This one, though, unlike the other two, I would say not as big an influence, especially that shaft one. This is huge because it has a big influence on the manufacturers. And they didn't seem to get the manufacturers involved with this, which surprises me. The manufacturers are very powerful, and I could see them arguing this. So let's get into who it affects and who it helps and who it hinders. So I believe if they were to be able to click their fingers and make the ball go 5 or 10% shorter, I think it helps the longer hitter. And the reason for that is they go from a wedge into a mid-iron, and the shorter hitter goes from a mid-iron into a long iron. Wedges, mid-irons, you're not going to miss many greens. From mid-iron to long iron, you're going to start missing far more greens, significantly more greens missed. That is going to have a massive, massive influence on your scoring potential. So if it's just simply the ball goes shorter, I think it helps the long hitter. But how are they going to make this ball go shorter? And I gave you kind of the test, but what they're proposing is changing how they look at what the ball is doing in terms of launch and spin. And I think that is where the spin profile has there's a bigger question in the spin profile. If you take Tiger, so Tiger played the Masters one year, and I think for a lot of tournaments, he was using a ball that spun a lot more. He wanted the shot shaping ability, but the ball went significantly shorter. So I think if the ball goes shorter with spin, it becomes a far more skill component on who it's going to affect more. And if that's what they're aiming for, so we've got two arguments. Are we just running out of land and we need to shorten it? Or are we trying to bring back the skill component? And if that's the case, the longer hitter tends to spin the ball more, just through the nature of speed, and they might have to now manage that spin more. Or you might have got golfers that were just bombing it and they didn't really have the ability to control the spin as well as others on tour. So if it becomes more of a spin profile and that ball has the ability to spin more, especially on miss hits, all of a sudden it becomes a far bigger argument about skill and your ability to get consistent strike, ability to control the face. So if that is it, it's going to have a far bigger influence on who is actually the most skillful. And I think these two, they kind of go in line, but they kind of don't. And this is going to be the hard thing with when they start changing these golf balls is, let's say I'm a very low spin player and I'm playing someone who's fast but very high spinning. This ball might really change everything about their golf game, you know, with how they have to swing, how they have to visualize their shots and the equipment they need to use. I might be a low spin player and I might just go, look, it's affecting me minimally. I'm just going to carry on doing what I was doing. Can you see in that scenario, the one player is having to completely change, the other player isn't. Bit like when they changed the belly putters. Golfers that had only ever used a belly putter, Keenan Bradley would be a good example. It influenced them massively. And it's not fair when it happens that way. But you could argue the nature of sport isn't fair. I like to use Formula One. You know, they change the rules almost yearly. You know, they have the big change every few years, but the rules are always being tweaked, and you have to find a way to perform within those rules. So you have that argument. The amateur golfer. So Rory made a comment. He said, well, you're only going to lose 5-10 yards. That doesn't really matter. The stats don't back that statement up. 20 yards, 0.75 shot reduction across the cohort of tour pros. So you kind of have that in the tour pro, but it has a far bigger influence on the amateur golfer. So giving them a ball that goes shorter doesn't help them. But, and this is the huge but, I don't think that is the big reason. So if let's say I did a test with a lot of amateur golfers and I got them to hit multiple shots, I think there's other factors that's going to have a far bigger outcome on their overall performance, especially distance, other than just the ball. That's been shown. The R A do studies. I think they do it every 10 years. I haven't seen the last one, but the trend has always been equipment is definitely able to allow golfers to hit the ball further, but the average amateur isn't hitting it further. So, yes, I don't think it's the best idea to give amateur golfers equipment that makes the game harder, but I think the complexities and hardness of the game itself will actually not influence this change as much. Speed is a huge influence as well. Speed and COR have a negative correlation. So what I mean by that is the faster golfer will be influenced more. You could just say, look, as a percentage, you know, if you're a lot faster and we both lose 5%, I'm going to lose more if I'm the faster golfer. But because it has a negative correlation, amateur golfers' equipment and I would say equipment / their enjoyment in this game is far more about having equipment that gives them the ability to be more consistent, especially on miss hits, than it is about just the raw performance of that equipment. So do I think it's a good idea for the amateur game? Not really. But do I think it's going to have a huge influence? Not really either. So that is my opinion. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Especially on the amateur side of it. You know, tour pros, they always find a way. They will always find a way. But do you think from an amateur perspective, you go, hey, I love golf. I'm getting into golf. I don't need you making my life harder. I'm out here to enjoy myself. I don't want to feel like all of my progress takes 3 steps back because you are trying to change the ball for a reason that doesn't really influence me. You know, as always, I'd love to hear what you've got to say. If you have any video ideas, this is my new room. I'm excited to get back doing more regular filming, long format videos like this for YouTube. I've been doing a lot on Instagram, so you can find me over there. But I'm excited and I feel really lucky to have this room available to me. and I will be doing lots of videos. So if you have any content ideas, any questions, get them down in those comments below. And as always, stay happy, stay safe. I hope to catch you soon.